create feedback.
I don't know.
He's right. Vielleicht sollten wir das smoothen.
Maybe it won't. Yeah, it's safer. Oops, something happened. Okay, should work. All right. Okay. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Yamuna Tira Vanacharya Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Stotra Sutta Shri Srimad Abhayacharana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Ashtotra Sutta Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी गौ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, नवद्वीप धाम की जय, गंगा मई की जय, यमुना मई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, समवेता भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swamiti Namane. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane. नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जन शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्री गुरो श्रीयुताः पदकमलं श्री गुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्री रूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। ओम नमो भगवते नरसिंहाय नमस्ते तेजसे आविर्भाव वज्रनक वज्रदंष्ट कर्माशयान रंधय रंधय तमोग्रसगस ओम स्वाहा अभयम अभयम आत्मनि भूयिष्ठा ओम क्षौम सत्यम विदातुम निजभृत्य भाषितं व्याप्तिं च भूतेषु अखिलेषु चात्मनः अदृश्यतात्याद्भुत रूपमुद्वहन् स्तंभे सभायां न मृगं न मानुषम्। प्रह्लाद हृदयाह्लादं भक्त्या विद्याविदारणं शरदिन्दुरुचिं वन्दे पारीन्द्रवदनं हरिं। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so today I wanted to, for my own purification, speak some glorification on Sri Nrsimhadev Bhagavan, who we worship here in this beautiful altar, beautiful form of the Lord, Prahlad Nrsimha. So, in this regard, I wanted to particularly choose a a set of verses called Stotram. It's called Lakshmi Nrsimha Karavalambha Stotra, composed by Adi Shankaracharya. Adi Shankaracharya, as we all might be aware, is one of the foremost acharyas in the Vedic line. Adi Shankaracharya was sent by the Supreme Lord to propound the Mayavad philosophy of absolute oneness with the Supreme Lord. This is a philosophy that we as Vaishnavas do not accept. Several acharyas, including Ramanuja, Madhvacharya, Supreme Personality of Godhead Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, do not accept this version of Adi Shankara's teachings, whereby he tries to establish that the living entity, Jiva, and Supreme Lord Brahman is one in all respects. And that mukti, moksha, means to merge with that Brahman, and that Brahman is without quality, without form, without any sort of activity. That the Supreme Brahman is formless, descriptionless, qualityless, etc. This is not accepted by Krishna and Bhagavad Gita. However, this is the philosophy that Shankaracharya established. Shankaracharya himself is an incarnation of Lord Shiva and is an extremely powerful acharya who we respect a lot. Shankaracharya is a hidden Vaishnava. Externally, he preached Mayavad, but his internal mood was that he was a Vaishnava. And we can understand this from many of his teachings, quite a few of them. One is the famous song Bhaja Govindam, where he establishes that all this word jugglery and learning all the Shastra and trying to twist the meaning out of it and all this is not going to save you at the time of death. Ultimately, surrender unto Govinda is the only shelter for one in this material world. Adi Shankara's mood comes out in specific prayers to Lord Viṣṇu, and this is one of them. This is a very, very nice composition. Actually, Adi Shankara's Ishta Devata, his favorite form of the Lord that he used to worship was Nrsimha. Nrsimha was Adi Shankara's Ishta Devata. And the reason can be seen here, that this stotram, it has a story behind it. So what happens, Adi Shankaracharya is in the environment of India where Buddhism is extremely prominent and the other philosophies are also prominent, the Shad Darshanas. You have 6 prominent philosophies in India. You have Vaisheshika, Karma Mimamsa, Nyaya, then you have Yoga, and like this, so on. And Adi Shankara, in order to establish the superiority of Uttara Mimamsa, that is, the superiority of following Vedanta Sutra as the ultimate conclusion, the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra as the ultimate conclusion, he had to defeat the Buddhists, and then he also had to defeat the 6 darshanas. And Adi Shankara was extremely successful at doing so because he is Adi Shankara. Now, what happens is, during his travels around India trying to defeat the philosophies, he now has to debate with Sri Mandana Mishra. Mandana Mishra is a Karma Mimamsa. Karma Mimamsaka. What is a Karma Mimamsaka? A Karma Mimamsaka is one who debates that the aim and goal of the Vedas is to perform pious activities and go to the heavenly planets. There's nothing more than this. Even if God is there, what can he do? He has to award you the fruits of your good reactions. So you do good reactions. Why are you concerned about God? Perform good deeds, go to the heavenly planet, enjoy, and when you come back down, continue performing good deeds, go back up there and enjoy. What's there more to be done? So this is Karma Mimamsakas. Karma Mimamsakas are very strict followers of the Vedas, but they follow the Vedas for their own sense gratification. And they claim this to be the purpose of the Vedas. Krishna speaks about these people. Please stop me if I'm speaking too fast. And I can speak slower. Okay. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. Where does he say that? Where does he talk about the Karma Mimamsakas? In Bhagavad Gita. No. Vedavada rataf partha nanyat asti iti vadinaha. No? Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Satvasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. And then Krishna says, he says that I'm trying to pull up that, I forget the first 2 lines. So, and then I remember the next verse. In the next verse, Krishna says, Kamanam Swarga Param, Janma Loka Pala Pradam, Kriya Visheshu Bahulam, Bhoga Ishwarya Gatim Prati. That these Vedavarada Rataf Partha, that the so-called followers of the Vedas, they say there is nothing more than this. Nanyat asti iti vadinaha. They say there is nothing. What is there more than this? What do they say? Kamanam Swarga Param. Through material desires and good activities, achieve Swarga. Janma Karma Phala Pradam. Through performing good activities, Janma Karma. Through good birth, Karma, good deeds, Phala, to get the fruit. This is the To do what? Janma karma pala pradam. Kriya visheshu bahulam bhoga aishwarya gatim prati. That the foremost consideration is for them to get bhoga and aishwarya, enjoyment and great opulence. This is the aim and goal. They don't emphasize on renunciation. They look down on sannyasis. What are these people, crazy people, giving up everything? You can live peacefully, you can do good activities, and you can enjoy. Why are you giving everything up? You know? So this is Mandana Mishra. Okay? So Mandana Mishra is a great learned scholar, and Adi Shankara is speaking with him. He is in Mithila. Mithila is modern day Janakpur in in Nepal. This is actually the place of Citta Devi's appearance. And that is where Lord Ramachandra married Citta Devi in Mithila, Janakpur, in Nepal, modern day Nepal. And so Mandana Mishra is debating with Adi Shankara, and Adi Shankara is about to defeat Mandana Mishra. Because Adi Shankara is expert in all the Vedas and the Vedantas, and he is about to defeat Mandana Mishra. Now, who is the, what do you call the person who decides between, who's the judge of a debate? The word they've used here is arbitrator, but there's another word for that. He's the, No. Anyways, whatever. The person, there's always somebody who decides who wins the debate. Right? There's a debate, there's a person who's judging. Who's the judge of that debate? Mandana Mishra's wife.
Referee.
The referee, yes. Mandana Mishra's wife, Ubaya Bharati, they're Brahmins. And Ubaya Bharati, she is the arbitrator of the debate. She's the referee. Now, she realizes that her husband is going to be defeated and is going to accept defeat. So she steps in and says to Adi Shankara, you can't actually consider him defeated without defeating me, his wife. Because we are one couple. We're one, team. So if you have to defeat, you have to defeat me too. So Adi Shankara says, okay, let's debate. So now Ubaya Bharati, she's very smart. And she's extremely intelligent. And she understands that Adi Shankara, who is at this point a very young sannyasi, he's under the age of 20 at this point. He's a very young sannyasi, very powerful sannyasi, but he's young. And in fact, he's more like in the age of 17, something like that, 16, 17, something like this. Very young, very, very young. And so she knows, him being a Naishtika Brahmachari, does not have any experience of conjugal love. And what she does is she starts asking him questions about conjugal love and the pleasure that comes from conjugal love. And then she tells him, you have never experienced the pleasures of conjugal love. How can you say this is insignificant? If you have never experienced it, how can you say this is insignificant? And Adi Shankara didn't necessarily study the Kama Sutras and the other things about the different pleasures of sex in order to be able to answer her questions. So he said, okay, let me take a break. I'll go do a little research and come back. Because he never... Actually, in one sense, Ubaya Bharati embarrassed Adi Shankara by asking these questions. And that was her goal. Well, she kind of embarrassed him, by asking these completely unexpected questions. But it was from a Shastric perspective, because Vedas contain everything. So now, Adi Shankara retires to the forest with his disciples. And he's thinking, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to convince this Ubaya Bharati? And as a sannyasi, he's not supposed to read these texts. So he's in a spot right now. He cannot learn about the subject matter as a sannyasi. But if he doesn't learn about the subject matter, Ubaya Bharati is not going to accept defeat. And therefore, he would have not won over this Mandana Mishra, who is a leader of the Karma Mimamsakas. A very, very influential person. Then just at that point of time, a king, along with his entourage, is passing through the forest, and the king is on a horse, and suddenly the king falls and dies. he has a heart attack or whatever. He suddenly dies. And the ministers and the other, entourage of the king, they saw this young, effulgent sannyasi along with his disciples, and they approach him. And they say, you see, can you please bring this person back to life? It's like, you're such a powerful person. And Adi Shankara saw this as an opportunity. Adi Shankaracharya is a mystic. He was also perfect in the Ashtanga Yoga Siddhis, in the different perfections of mystic yoga. And he thought, you see, this is an opportunity for me to enter the body of this king and then learn about this sex pleasure, then come back into my body and there will be no fault in my sannyas. And then I will go and defeat this Ubaya Bharati. So, okay. So, he sees this as an opportunity through the process of mystic yoga to enter the body of another person. This is all possible through mystic yoga. Because through mystic yoga, a mystic yogi can leave his body at any time he wants. And that means he can also enter another person's body. Since this king had just died, it was possible for Adi Shankara to enter that body. So then he tells his disciples, this is what I'm going to do. You preserve my body. Keep it safe in a cave. And so they preserve Adi Shankara's body in a cave. And hidden, don't tell anybody this. So then Adi Shankara enters the body of the king, and the ministers think that the king has come back to life. And then, he goes back to the kingdom. Now he has wives, he has children, he has everything. He experiences all the so-called pleasures of household life, and he also becomes well-versed in the science of sex pleasure. And at this time, the ministers and the wives, they're able to recognize that this is not the king. Some other person is here. Because it's a different person. He's entering, the body is the same, but the person is different. But they realize that he rules the kingdom with such amazing perfection that everybody is very happy with him. That some great saint is ruling the kingdom. The wives are finding that their husband is now suddenly a big saint. And they're very happy. And so the kings decide there must be some yogi, the ministers, and they decide that we want him to stay in this body. This yogi seems to have some purpose in coming into this body. It must be that sannyasi that we spoke to. Let's go find that body of that sannyasi and destroy it so that he cannot go back to that body. And so they embark on a search and they actually find the body. And the king's, army men start to set fire to that body. They set fire to that body. At that time, Adi Shankara's disciples, realizing the danger, immediately approach him, and Adi Shankara had given them a code word to tell him so that he remembers what is going on. And so they say that, and Adi Shankara immediately remembers his past and realizes that his body is burning. And this is when he composes this Lakshmi Nrsimha Karavalamba Stotra, praying to Lakshmi Nrsimha to protect his body. But this amazing, in this amazing composition, Adi Shankara does not pray to Lakshmi Nrsimha to actually protect his body. He instead compares himself as a very fallen soul who's fallen in the ocean of material existence and needs the protection and shelter of Lakshmi Nrsimha to save him. And it's really beautifully composed. It's about 16 verses. And one second. So, oops. Okay. So, let's see. Yeah. So, we all have heard descriptions of samsara, material existence. Can we think of what comparisons are made for samsara? Analogies, examples of material life. What are the examples that are given for material life? Yeah? Computer game. I've never heard of that. Okay. No, but from Prabhupada's books, from Shastra. Yeah. Chewing the chewed. No, I'm talking of an analogy, not the nature of material life, but an analogy. An analogy for material life. What is it compared to? Huh? Blazing fire. Okay. Material life is compared to a blazing fire. Okay. Dark forest. Material life is compared to a dark forest. Ocean. Ocean. What else? Yes, Prabhu. It's compared to a dark well. Very good. What else is samsara compared to? It's compared to a wheel. It's compared to something that, yes, it's compared to a wheel that is entangling. It keeps going up and down. Chakra, samsara chakra. You hear that word, wheel. Okay, what else? That's our description. But yeah, from Prabhupada's books, from Shastra. Huh? No. Silkworm, how is, well, that's in reference to the living entity himself, but not the material existence in general. What else? There's one example that Krishna gives in Bhagavad Gita. What is that? Tree. The material world is compared to a tree. Right? We said all this. Adi Shankara compares samsara to 10 different examples in this shloka. In this. So it's a very beautiful verse. So he does 10 examples, and actually he mentions samsara a total of 12 times, but there are only 10 examples because he uses the ocean thrice, which is one of the best descriptions of samsara, is an ocean where you drown. And this is an analogy that's given. Okay. Sri Lakshmi Nrsimha Karavalamba Stotram. Let's see here. Okay, so I'll recite the Sanskrit and then we'll read the English and then kind of continue from there. Srimat Payodhini Niketana Chakrapane Bhogindra Bhogamani Ranjita Punyamurte Yogisha Shashvata Sharanya Bhavabdipota Lakshmi Nrsimha Mama Dehi Karavalambham Lakshmi Nrsimha Mama Dehi Karavalambham. So this is translation taken from the internet, so forgive the English. I wish I could have revised this. But basically, Nrsimha here is compared to the supreme form of Narayana who resides in the ocean of milk. So, why the ocean of milk? Because here, as you can see, okay, let me read the translation. O great God Lakshmi Nrsimha, who lives in the ocean of milk, who holds the holy wheel as weapon, who wears the gems of the head of Adi Shesha as ornaments, who has the form of good and holy deeds, who is the permanent protection of the sages, and who is the boat which helps us cross this ocean of misery called life. Please give me the protection of your hands. So specifically, Adi Shankara is praying for Karavalambha, the protection of Lakshmi Nrsimha's hands, the hands of the Supreme Lord. Because he's praying for this protection because the hands are what an affectionate father or an affectionate parent uses to shower affection upon their child. They use their hands. They use their hands to provide protection and also give nourishment. So, the ocean of material existence is compared to the saltwater ocean. And how is the saltwater ocean? The salt water is not something that is nourishing for the living entity. If you drink salt water, you will die. Of course, not if you drink 1 cup, but if you only drink salt water, your body will not be able to handle it. Because salt water does not give nourishment to the body, it actually drains the body. It doesn't give nourishment. But Lakshmi Narasimha resides in the ocean of milk. He doesn't reside in the ocean of salt water. He resides in the ocean of milk. And specifically, Adi Shankara is evoking that ocean of milk because milk gives nourishment. That you are one who resides in the ocean of milk. I am suffering in the ocean of salt water. If you give me your protection, just like milk gives nourishment to one who requires that nourishment, you can give me nourishment to the suffering soul who has forgotten you. And he uses the word Adishesha as ornaments. He's referring to, before that, he's holding the holy wheel as a weapon, the Sudarshan Chakra. He's comparing the Sudarshan Chakra to one who can cut all the knots that's found in the heart. The Sudarshan Chakra defeats enemies, but it also gives the devotee protection by cutting his ignorance. And Adishesha as the ornaments. Who is Adishesha? It's a snake. What has the snake got to do with the ocean? In the ocean there are many poisonous snakes. There are many poisonous creatures. But Adishesha can protect one from such poisonous snakes of material existence. And ultimately, the Lakshmi Narasimha is the shelter of those who perform good deeds. Is the shelter of those who are his devotees, who perform pious activities. And what kind of shelter is that? That shelter is not temporary, because he is Yogisha Shashvata Sharanya. He is Shashvata. He is eternal. His shelter is eternal. It is not a temporary shelter. Prahlad Maharaj prays to Nrsimhadev famously. He says, Balasya neha sharanam pitarau Nrsimha. What protection can a father give his son? In this material world, everybody is seeking different kinds of temporary protections in the form of parents, wife, family, wealth. But these shelters will not protect one, because none of these shelters are eternal. Only one shelter is eternal. That is the shelter of the Supreme Lord. And because of that, Adi Shankara seeks his shelter. And he is Bhavabdi Pota. He is the Pota. He is the boat that can help one cross the ocean of material existence, the ocean of misery called life. So this is the, he's using this very nice word here. Bhava Abdi. Bhava Abdi means Bhavasagara, is the ocean of misery. And you can see his position, his condition. He's praying, his body is getting burned, his mission in life for which he has been given to is completely in danger, and he's totally helpless. But just see how Adi Shankara prays. What has this got to do with us? These kind of prayers are actually very relevant to our situation. And you will see that devotees like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, for instance, in his song Gopinath, he prays like this. Now there is a song, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gopinath Mama Nivedana Suno. So he says that in there, he says, the second song for instance, Guchava samsara jwala, abidya jatana aranahi sahe, janama marana mala. O Gopinath, please extinguish the flames of this material life. I cannot bear the tortures of ignorance. I cannot bear the weight of the necklace of birth and death. There's a necklace of birth and death that all living entities are wearing that's dragging them down to the material universe. These analogies are very, very nice. And when a devotee, following in the footsteps of the Acharyas, offers these prayers to the Supreme Lord gives them protection. Why? Why does Supreme Lord give protection when we repeat the prayers of the Acharyas? We can make our own prayers. Devotees are dear, they did it, and what was the result? They were successful. They got that protection. And the Supreme Lord offers us that protection not because we have the devotion of the acharyas, but because the acharyas are so dear that when we recite these prayers, they become reminded of those acharyas. And being reminded, and because we were instruments in reminding the Supreme Lord of his devotees, he said, okay, you reminded me of somebody who's very dear to me. I'll give you protection. Just like when a loving father suddenly hears some glory about his son, he remembers the son, and immediately he develops affection for the person who glorified his son or glorified his beloved. This is the nature of love. Yes.
When the Lord knows everything, past, present, and future, why do we have to pray for protection when He knows we are in Mahuti?
Okay, questions later. Yeah. No problem. So, and we can see that the acharyas, they really pray in a very, very pitiable manner. They pray in a very pitiable manner, completely condemning themselves. Again, for instance, in the same song, Amito Muraka Ati, Gopinath Amito Muraka Ati, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, Kishe balo hoy, Khabu na bujino, Tai heno mama gati. O Gopinath, I am certainly very foolish, and I have never known what is good for me. I never know what is good for me. I am so foolish. Therefore, such is my condition. And when a devotee prays in this kind of helpless manner, he earns the mercy of the Supreme Lord. And that kind of desperation is something that a devotee needs to come to. And it's better that one comes through that to that position voluntarily. Otherwise, Krishna makes one come to that position. Because only in that situation does the devotee completely throw himself at the Supreme Lord in a spirit of unalloyed surrender. This is why we have to chant those prayers. Because until we reach this realization and this point in our life, we still think that with our strength, with our abilities, I will somehow adjust things in my life. Actually, we have no capability of adjusting anything. We are completely helpless. And we may engage in different activities in the service of the Supreme Lord, but we know everything can be finished like this. And if Maya is very strong, however strong we are, we'll be swept away. What are we in front of Maya? Nothing. So this is the mood that Adi Shankara, in which he prays. He prays in this very helpless way, and it's very wonderful. So I'll go to the next verse. Okay. Brahmendra Rudra Marudarka Kirita Koti Sanghatti Tangri Kamala Malakanti Kanta Lakshmi Lasat Kucha Saroruja Raja Hamsa Lakshmi Nrisimha Mamade Karavalambham. Very beautiful Sanskrit. Practically all of Adi Shankara's compositions are really first class Sanskrit, just first class. And here he glorifies Lakshmi Nrisimha. Oh, great Lord Lakshmi Nrisimha, whose feet is touched by the crowns of Brahma, Indra, Shiva and Surya, whose shining feet adds to his effulgence, who is the royal swan playing near the breasts of goddess Lakshmi. Please give me the protection of your hands. So you can see how beautifully Adi Shankara describes the affection between Lakshmi Devi and Nrsimha Dev. That Nrsimha Dev is not attracted to his wife in the same way a mundaner may be attracted to his wife with lusty desires. Rather, his enjoyment of Lakshmi Devi is also royal, elegant, most glorious, and fully transcendental. So, the way he describes is that it is the royal swan who is playing in near the breasts, the lotus-like breasts of Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi has beautiful breasts that are similar to a lotus. That are, her form is like that of a lotus. She sits on a lotus, and her breasts are like that of two big lotuses. Now, what is the relationship between a swan and lotuses? Anybody has read Mukunda Mala Stotra? Yes?
I thought the swan sometimes he plays with the what is it called? The stem?
The stems. Very good. How did you hear that? You don't remember.
That's only one to speak about it. And then they die.
They get entangled. But I've never heard of them dying though. I've always heard of them like...
I heard it as an example that it was a prayer, I think. Somebody once...
that doesn't mean that the swan dies. So the royal swan is able to play within the stems of a lotus. And it seems like it is getting entangled, completely enamored by those stems. And the example is actually by King Kulashekara in his Mukunda Mala Stotra. And Srila Prabhupada, this was his most often quoted verse of Kulashekara Alvar, Mukunda Mala Stotra. Krishna tvadiya pada pankacha panjaratram adyaiva me vishatu manasa rajahamsa prana prayana samaye kapavada pittai kantavarodhana vidau smaranam kutaste. That Kulashekara Alvar, he prays that Krishna, he compares Krishna's feet is compared to what? Lotus? Lotus feet, we say. Right? So Krishna's feet are lotuses. And Kulashekara Alvar says his mind is like a swan. His mind is like the swan. And he wants his mind to enter the lotus stems of the Supreme Lord's feet and become entangled there. And he, just like the lotus, just like the swan likes to play and immerse himself in the lotus stems and the lotus, in the lotus pond. Similarly, Kulashekara is praying for his mind to become entangled in the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, so that, why? Because at the time of death, prana prayana samene, when the soul is about to leave the body, what happens? Anybody here into Ayurveda? No? Wow. I'm amazed. Nowadays many devotees are too much into it sometimes. But, yeah. Oh, he's really into Ayurveda. Okay. But, so there's three doshas that are there according to Ayurveda that maintain the body. You have three doshas. You have kapha, vita, pitta, and vata. So you have air, bile, and mucus. So, or you can say air, water, and fire, to put it simple. When these three things are balanced, the body is healthy. All diseases are caused by some imbalance of one of these three. Now, at the time of death, what happens? All these three go completely out of balance. They're completely berserk. So what happens when one has too much kapha? One has extreme mucus. So much mucus that one is struggling to breathe. There is mucus in the lungs. And you have this sound where it's like, because the air there's not much room for air to pass, because so much kapha, that fluid has engulfed the lungs, the nose, the sinuses. So this is kapha. And kapha also means bloating of the body, becoming extremely obese. It's also kapha. It also, beyond a certain point of time, it chokes you. Then you have pitta. Pitta is too much heat. So at the time of death, one's fever shoots up, to a very high degree that one becomes delirious. And we all had experience that when you have fevers, you get all kinds of crazy dreams, right? Why? Because mind it's not able to function properly. The brain is not able to function properly. It's overheated. So it goes crazy. So this is pitta. And then kapha vata. When vata goes very high, what happens? It's too much air. So your digestion is ruined. You don't have ability to digest because the air is just pushing everything out of your body. Nothing is able to stay. And air fills in all the pockets of your joints. So then you have pain. You have pain in all of your joints. So this is kapha, vata, pitta. And at the time of death, all of these three go crazy. And Kulashekar Alvar is saying, when all these three go crazy, Kanta varodana vidau smaranam kutaste. How am I going to recite your holy name and remember it? How am I going to do that at the time of death? Therefore, let my mind enter your lotus feet now. When my body is healthy, let my mind enter your lotus feet now. So he says, at the time of death, I don't know if I'll be able to remember, but let me go. Let me become fully absorbed right now. So this example is very nice. So here Nrsimhadev is compared to the royal swan who's playing between the breasts of Lakshmi Devi. Very beautiful example. You can imagine this without feeling even slightly lusty about it. This is the beauty of Sanskrit poetry that is bona fide, is that one can discuss these things in an assembly of sadhus. And this is the beauty of such highly cultured literature. And of course, we understand that Lakshmi Nrsimha is Narayana himself. Here, Adi Shankara makes that point. He's not worshipping some form of someone. Lakshmi Nrsimha is none other than Narayana himself, the supreme creator, at whose lotus feet all of the demigods place their crowns and offer obeisances. And his feet is more shining than all of their crowns put together. They are all effulgent personalities. Very effulgent personalities. But just Lakshmi Nrsimha's feet is more bright than all of them put together. This is glorification. Please give me the protection of your hands. Mama Dehi Karavalambam. Please protect me. And the word Dehi, anybody knows what Dehi means? Oh, Bhagavad Gita again. Huh? What is Dehi? No. Embodied. Dehi, one who is within the body. That Dehi nosmin yata dehe, Dehi nosmin, Dehi. So, Dehi refers to the spirit soul. Adi Shankara calls himself as Dehi because he's using that specific word to show that he's a conditioned soul trapped in this body. I need your help. I need your help, Lakshmi Nrsimha. Please save me. I am trapped in this body, Dehi. So very nice. Okay. Third verse. Samsara dava dahanakara bhikaroru jwalavali birati dhagdhatanu ruhasya. Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, okay. I think it's... Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I'm reading the wrong one. Okay. Something is wrong. I'm trying to read it with the diacritics, but then they've put it in a different order here. I didn't check that. Okay, I'll just read it here. Samsara gora gahane charate murare marogra bhikara mriga pravaraditasya arthasya matsara nidhat Chanapiditasya Lakshmi Nrisimha Mama Dehi Karavalambham. So, the translation: O great God Lakshmi Nrisimha, O Lord who killed the Asura called Mura, I have been traveling in the dark forests of day-to-day life, where I have been terrified by the lion called desire and scorched by the heat called competition. And so, please give me the protection of your hands. So, this is a very nice description where Adi Shankara is comparing the material world to what? What is he comparing it here? To a dark forest. And in this dark forest of day-to-day life, where if you're in a forest and the lion roars, you become very scared. And he's being terrified by the lion. What lion? Lion of Kama. Lion known as Kama. And why is and in that forest there is a great demon. What is that demon? That demon is the asura that causes the living entity to want to enjoy this material universe. That demoniac spirit that the living entity has to enjoy separately from Krishna. That demon. And here he is using the word Murari because Krishna is the killer of the demon Mura. And therefore Lakshmi Nrisimha can kill the demon, the demoniac desires that reside within the heart, just like he killed Hiranyakashipu. And Adi Shankara uses that word, and then he says he's terrified by the lion called desire, because a genuine devotee realizes that his material desires are actually very dangerous. Because these material desires can take one away from Krishna. And he is terrified by those desires, and he prays to Lakshmi Nrisimha, who is also a lion. He's also a lion, but this lion is not someone to be terrified of. In fact, Nrsimhadev is the lion that scares away the lion-like desires to enjoy this material world. This is all poetic comparisons. And here also, he's comparing the fire of Matsaryam. Matsarya, what is Matsarya? Matsarya is envy. Right? What is envy? Envy comes because of being desirous of someone else's possessions and things that we don't actually deserve. And this envy ultimately is towards whom? Is towards Krishna. Because we don't want to surrender unto Krishna. We don't want to take shelter of his lotus feet. And this envy is what is keeping us away. Now this envy burns the conditioned soul. It burns the conditioned soul. It never allows the conditioned soul to be peaceful. And so just as a living entity who's in the forest is scorched by the heat, because it's a hot day, it's a hot forest, it's a dark forest and it's hot. And he's scorched by that heat of envy. So he prays to Lakshmi Nrisimha that you please, even though Lakshmi Nrisimha is hot, I mean Nrsimhadev is compared to heat, that heat is actually cooling to the living entity. And the heat that comes from Lakshmi Nrisimha is very pleasurable, whereas the heat that comes from material existence is simply miserable. In fact, Adi Shankara indicates that people may be scared of Nrsimhadev. There is nothing to be scared of Nrsimhadev. Actually, what is more terrifying is the lion-like desires to enjoy this material world and the heat of envy. This is more dangerous. This is very significant because in India, many people, they don't like to worship Ugra Nrsimha. They're very scared. Oh, he's too fierce. What is this form? But no, Adi Shankara doesn't say that. He says, no, Lakshmi Nrisimha is the most beautiful form. Your own material desires are terrifying. Your demoniac desires are terrifying. So this is Adi Shankara's beautiful commentary here. Composition. Okay, text 4. Let me see. Yes, okay. Samsara kupamadi ghoramagadamulam samprapya dukkha shata sarpa samakulasya dīnasya deva kripana padamagatasya lakshmi nrisimha mama dehi karavalambham. O great God Lakshmi Nrsimha, I have reached the very dangerous and deep bottom of the well of day-to-day life, and also being troubled by hundreds of miseries which are like serpents. I am really miserable and have reached the state of wretchedness, and so please give me the protection of your hands. So here Adi Shankara is comparing the material world to a deep dark well. And what is there in that deep dark well? There are these poisonous snakes. So first of all, a deep dark well is very scary. When you fall into a deep dark well, you don't know, there's nobody there to call, nobody even there to hear you. You've fallen into this abysmal, deep well, and what's inside the well? You have all these ferocious, very poisonous snakes. And those snakes are compared to the miseries of material existence. Specifically, what are the miseries of material existence? Adi Bhautika, Adi Devika, and Adhyatmika. You have these three kleshas. So you have these three dangerous serpents. Also, miseries of material existence. Yes. So those three are miseries arising from the body. You have miseries that come from one's own body. When you get a headache, it's something that came from your own body. And it's frustrating. And when you have a headache, and you really have a really bad headache, you can't do anything. You just can't function. But these are the problems that come with this material body. This is one serpent. Second serpent is Adi Bhautika. Misery is caused by other living entities, such as the mosquitoes that bite us at night here in New Simachalam. So, these mosquitoes, they won't let you sleep. You know what's worse than the mosquitoes biting? When they come and hum near your ear. That is, even you bite, it's fine. Somehow you can tolerate that. When it comes, and you can't sleep and you can't find where the damn thing is also. It's like, this is Adi Bhautika. You have miseries like this that come from other living entities. Right? And then you have Adi Daivika, miseries caused by nature. Too hot, too cold, storms, tornadoes, hurricanes, all kinds of things. It's difficult to find that perfect day. We always want to have that perfect day, but I remember this time in Atlanta, it was cold, and we were waiting for spring. Spring is coming. Within 1 week, it goes from winter to being extremely hot. You're in summer already, suddenly. There was no spring. 1 week, because we were preparing the garden. But we couldn't grow some vegetables because it suddenly became too hot. Some of the vegetables that thrive in relatively colder climates, and they need that spring season to become strong for summer, we couldn't do that. Because it just went from winter to summer in 1 week. This actually happened this year. This is this example of Adi Daivika Klesh, where it's just caused by universal forces. So these three serpents are tormenting the living entity who has fallen in the dark well of material existence and doesn't know, you're in this well, you have these three serpents, and you don't have anywhere to run. You don't have anywhere to go. Where will you go? If you're actually caught in a well, when you live in tropical countries, snakes are actually a real danger thing. Here you don't have snakes. You don't have snakes. You don't have to worry about snakes. Yeah. You have in Mississippi? Poisonous? Yeah. Swamps. So you have poisonous snakes. But then if you go even tropical countries, very poisonous. And I remember once, so I come from Chennai, South India. We're kind of running out of time. Um, so, um, and you know, there was one of our neighbors who was using the elevator. This is an apartment. He's using the elevator, and this is an old elevator where you have to like close the door. Have you seen these elevators? You have to shut the door closed, and then because it's always hot, you press the fan, so the fan turns on. So this poor boy, he gets into the lift, you call it lift here? Lift in Europe. So he closes the lift, and he presses the button, the lift is moving up, and he presses the fan, and out drops a snake. Oh my God, the guy freaked out, poor fellow. Just imagine, a snake just drops from the fan of the ceiling of the elevator and drops on, and now you're stuck in a space where it's like 3 feet by 3 feet or 4 feet by 4 feet, and you have a snake that's slithering around. How terrifying would you feel? You might give up your life. I'm surprised he didn't lose his life, actually. But then, fortunately, it found the gap between the elevator and because he just suddenly opened the door. And the elevator stopped, and then the snake slithered into the gap and dropped down onto the bottom of the elevator shaft. But it's very terrifying when you're suddenly caught. Even just being caught with a skunk is probably worse than being, anyways, equal, comparable. So it's like that. So he's comparing, and he reached the state of wretchedness. Wretchedness means completely dinasya. And this word that he uses, the word that he uses here is very interesting. Dinasya deva kripanasya. Kripana padamagatasya. So, what is this word kripana? Anybody studied Prabhupada's books? Kripana, what is kripana? What is a miser?
He doesn't like to give money,
No.
he doesn't use the money.
One who wastes the opportunity of life.
The one who wastes the human form of life is called a kripana in Shastra. Because the human form of life is such a valuable thing that we have. And what is the living entity using it? For what the animals use it for. The animals get sex. The animals have, they don't have to marry also. And so that means everybody is girlfriend, boyfriend only. And they have kids also and no divorce. And no debt also. They don't have loans. They don't have to worry about loans. So the animals are enjoying more. But the human being, having obtained this human form of life, is trying to live like an animal. This is kripana. And Adi Shankara calls himself a kripana. And that's what he means by wretched. By my miserly existence, I am simply suffering. And here, the word hand is very significant, because when one is stuck in a deep, dark well, one needs someone's hand to pull them up. You need the hand of someone to pull you up. So therefore, dehi karavalambam. Kara alambam. Alambam actually means embrace. Embrace me with your hand. Give me that protection. It's the embrace of protection. That's why it's so nice. I was remembering how here in this deity, you see how Prahlad is being held by Nrsimhadev's hand. That affectionate, protective embrace, where Prahlad is very peaceful, very happy, very calm. That embrace is what Adi Shankara is praying for. Okay, anyways, I've done 4 verses. I didn't know how long I would take, but yeah. So, I'll stop here. This is wonderful. This is really wonderful. We haven't even gotten through 20% of it. Yes, Prabhu. Both. Especially if one desires to serve the Supreme Lord in a particular way, it's very nice to pray for that and pray for the Supreme Lord's protection. This prayer is whereby one reminds oneself that actually one is not the doer. This is why prayer is so important, because we are not the doers. If we just perform endeavor without praying, we forget that we are not the doers. We think we are the doers within Krishna consciousness. Theoretically, we understand that Supreme Lord has to do everything and that we are dependent on Him. But do we feel that way? How do you evoke those feelings? Prayers. That when we read these prayers and we meditate upon that, the feelings start to evoke from the heart. And these feelings are very important. Therefore, it's very nice to sing Vaishnav bhajans, read these Vaishnav bhajans, read these different prayers. These prayers are very powerful. You read the Palashruti of this prayer by Adi Shankara. He says, he offers a benediction. Of course, this is Karmis who translate, so they put lotus feet of Brahman. How is Brahman having lotus feet? But anyways, it's, see the verse that's used is Laksh. Okay, let me pull it all the way up here because these diacritics are better to read. Lakshmi Nrsimha Charanabja Madhuvratena Stotram Kritam Shubhakaram Bhuvi Shankarena Yetat Patandi Manuja Hari Bhakti Yukta Steyanti Tat Padasaroja Makhandarupam. So this is that he says that this stotram is Shubhakaram. It gives auspiciousness to everybody. And who is Shankara? Shankara is that bee who is seeking the nectar from Lakshmi Nrsimha Charana Abja Madhu. Nectar from the lotus feet of Lakshmi Nrsimha. And this stotram that he has recited is Bhuvi Shankarena. It gives Shankara, brings auspiciousness to the whole world. Ye tat patanti madhuja hari bhakti yuktaha. That for those who are bhakti yukta, they are devotees of the Supreme Lord. For them, by reciting this, Ste yanti tat padasaroja makhanda rupam, they attain the lotus feet of He who is akhanda rupam, whose form is never destructible, whose form is unlimited. Akhanda rupam, whose form is never destroyed. So this kind of benediction you get. And so this is the benediction of making those prayers. Is by making those prayers, our desires are actually fulfilled. Because the benediction is found within the prayers. Hare Krishna. Anything else? We have 3 minutes. Yes. Huh? Oh, sorry.
Thank you very much for these inspiring words. How to pray feelingly, because it's easy to just say something.
Meditation upon the meaning. This is the challenge, because even, see, if you actually meditate upon the meaning of what we sing, Mangalarti, Guru Puja, then the feelings will come. But one has to connect to that meaning, which means one has to know the meaning, and then one should remind oneself of that meaning and not just mechanically do things. That's the way. If you remember the meaning, feeling will come eventually. Yes, Prabhu.
Is this Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Thank you for your lecture. Is this so bona fide that I can recite and learn this to pray?
Yeah, anybody can recite this. Anybody can learn and recite this. This is wonderful prayer. And as you have Nrsimhadev here, it's actually very wonderful. to be able to recite this. It's fully devotional. It's perfectly devotional. And anyways, if I went through all the different verses, I was going to compare it with different things in the Bhagavatam and things like that.
Is this a prayer you would was heißt empfehlen? Recommend to when you have a hard time really fall down to Nrsimhadev. So
Yeah, when you have a hard time, when you have a good time, every time you can say.
I mean, when you
Maybe you can say. Yeah. Because that's kind of what actually he prays here. He actually calls himself Kripana, he calls himself Dehi. He says, actually I'm not, he condemns himself. But he says, please give me your shelter. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Gopinath song plays exactly in the same way. He actually says, I'm not capable of doing this, but you by your mercy it will be possible. Please don't forget me. Okay. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Shri Prahlad Nrsimhadev ki jai. Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol.